Welcome to the final lesson, lesson number 12. This is an introduction to interactive media. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find out how we modify, insert, and edit our actual media tools. Then we're going to take a look at some of the real-life examples of those tools in use. Lesson 12 is actually going to be the capstone. It's probably going to be your favorite part about this entire course. It is the grand poobah of the SMARTboard and smart software abilities. It gives us the option to actually use what is called Flash media or Flash developed activities. Flash is made by Adobe, and all it is it's basically programmed little instances that you can use in Smart. These things have been developed by other programmers, probably outside of Smart, but they've been injected into the gallery section in SMARTboard software so that you can actually drag them over and use them. To understand what I'm talking about here, let's take a look at, first of all, where we find them, and second of all, how they work, and third of all, how you are going to create your own. So let's take a look at the galleries here. Under the galleries, we have that lesson activity toolkit that I talked about before. This is the place where you're going to go to access those Flash or interactive media applications. If you hit that plus button again, you're going to see you have a whole subsection dedicated to certain topics. For instance, if you're working on activities or if you want your students to engage in some in-class activities, you would go here. If you want to play a game at the end of your lesson, that's where you would go. Graphics can be added in. Graphics are, in some cases, let's just take a look at that, are very similar. For instance, we've got pictures and backgrounds, and then we have notebook files and pages. A lot of these graphics are similar to what you could find in the regular old gallery section. But some of them, like the buttons or the icons, can actually do things. When I say do things, I mean they can hyperlink you to different parts of your actual document. They can connect you to the internet. They can do a whole myriad of different things. They are interactive buttons. They're not just those stagnant image buttons. We're not going to get into that quite yet. Let's back out and take a look at some of the activities that we can do. Under activities, you have whole category sorts, example, image matching, keyword matching, multiple choices. You can create your own multiple choice interactive activities so that you can kind of understand all of the different things that you can do with these or how your Flash media is going to look or act in the end. Let's take a look at one of the examples that Smart actually gives us. If we take a look at the tools section down here, we have an example right here, or we have a series of examples. And down here now, as soon as I click on this, this whole section once again gets populated by a whole bunch of different tools or examples of things that you can do with these Flash media or these interactive documents. This one's called Balloon Pop. In order to get Balloon Pop, this interactive media, to jump over here onto my page, I can do the same exact technique that I did with the images. I can double click on it. In this case, you have to wait a little bit longer sometimes simply because your buttons, or your interactive media rather, is going to be a little bit more sophisticated than an image actually is, so it might take a little bit. So don't panic if it takes a few seconds or several seconds before this actually loads itself. Now I'm just going to close this down. I can move this over so that I have a little more room, or I can actually use this technique that I showed you way back in one of the lessons previous, and I can use this full screen view so that you can take a look at what this thing does for me here. This says, up at the top, which of these words are verbs? Press the balloon to pop them. It's actually going to give me the option of popping these balloons. So, for instance, jump is a verb. So I click on that. I'll give it one more tap here. Sometimes you got to hit a little bit harder than you think. So you may have to encourage your student to really give it a good jab. Well, jump gives me a nice check mark. Sure enough, it is a verb. Apple, I think, is a verb also. Once again, I'm going to give it a nice hard tap. Apple, it turns out, is not, unfortunately. So I got a big X here. All of this was done for you. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how we can create one of these kind of interactive media pieces ourselves.